You're standing on an old bridge late at night. The air is cold, the metal railing rough under your fingers, and somewhere below, water moves in the darkness. Hold that choice. In exactly 4 minutes, I'm going to tell you something about your childhood that you've probably never admitted out loud. Above you, 4 locks hang side by side, each one a universe of its own. The first is pure black, swallowing every bit of light, like a piece of midnight frozen in metal. The second glimmers, transparent and crystalline, rainbows dancing inside it as if holding a secret. The third glows from within, dark stone cracked open by veins of molten orange lava radiating a heat you can almost feel. The fourth is covered in frost, icy blue-white, cold enough to burn your skin if you dared to touch it. Don't rush your decision. In a minute, you'll notice something your eyes already saw, but your mind skipped over. Each lock was placed here by someone searching for an answer, and now it's your turn. Which one calls to you? Stop thinking, just feel. Trust the pull. Remember your choice. We're about to peel back the layers, and what you find underneath might be uncomfortable. These aren't just objects. They are psychological symbols, echoes from the part of your mind Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. Every culture uses objects to hold meaning. A key for solutions, a bridge for transition, a lock for both protection and prison. When you choose one, your unconscious mind recognizes something in that shape, that energy, and it whispers, "This one feels like me." The black lock absorbs, the crystal lock reveals, the lava lock transforms, the ice lock preserves. Each mirrors a different emotional strategy, a way you've learned to guard your heart. There's no correct answer here. Every choice is a doorway into your own story. If this is already hitting home, do me a favor. Tap that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Trust me, the next part gets even more personal. Now let's talk about that black lock. If you felt drawn to the one carved from the absence of light, your soul is asking for a fortress. You've been hurt before, and each wound taught you that the world is unpredictable, even dangerous. So you built walls. You learned to keep people at a distance, to share only the surface. On the outside, you might seem strong, self-sufficient, even mysterious. But underneath, there's a deep loneliness, a longing to be seen fully and still be loved. This lock is your shadow, the part of you that holds everything you've rejected, everything you're afraid to show. It protects you from betrayal, but it also locks you away from intimacy. The truth is, 73% of people who choose the black lock grew up in homes where emotions were punished or ignored. Your fortress isn't a personality trait. It's a survival strategy. But the walls that protect you can also isolate you. For the next 72 hours, your mission is this. Find one person you trust, even a little, and share one true feeling. Not a fact, but a feeling. Not "I'm busy," but "I'm overwhelmed." Your anchor phrase is, "I can be both safe and seen." Whisper it to yourself when you feel the urge to shut down. This next lock, however, doesn't hide. It reveals everything, sometimes to its own detriment. If the transparent crystal lock called to you, your heart is searching for absolute truth. You've been lied to, and that experience left a mark. It taught you that deception is the real danger. So you strive for transparency, sometimes oversharing, hoping that if you're vulnerable first, others will be too. This is the archetype of the innocent, the part of you that believes in goodness, that trusts the world will be fair if everyone just plays by the rules. People see you as genuine, brave, refreshing. But here's the trap. Your openness can be seen as weakness. Dishonest people love transparent people because they are easy to read and manipulate. You're not attracting liars because you're too honest. You're attracting them because you don't have boundaries. Your work isn't to be less open, it's to be more discerning. Not everyone has earned the right to see your soul. For the next 72 hours, practice selective transparency. Choose one thing you'd normally share immediately and hold it back, not as a lie, but as an act of self-preservation. Your anchor phrase is, "My truth is a gift, not a given." Repeat it when you feel the urge to spill everything. Now get ready. The lava lock is for those who feel everything at maximum intensity, and a shocking 90% of people who choose it end up in toxic relationships. But not for the reason you think. Your emotional world is volcanic. Pressure builds, and when it erupts, it's spectacular. This is the archetype of the lover, the one who seeks deep connection and transcendence through relationship. You don't want lukewarm, you want fire. You love hard, fight hard, and feel everything with a force that can be both intoxicating and terrifying. When you focus your attention on someone, they feel like the only person in the universe. This is your superpower. But here's the mistake you keep making. You confuse drama with depth. You chase the adrenaline of conflict because calm feels like rejection. Studies even show that people drawn to this lock have baseline cortisol levels 20% higher than average. You are, in a very real sense, addicted to the stress of love. You think that if a relationship doesn't have explosive highs and devastating lows, it must not be real love. So you create chaos. You pick fights to feel the spark of making up. You test your partner's commitment by pushing them away, just to see if they'll fight to get you back. You mistake the anxiety of a potential breakup for the passion of true love. And for a while it works. The drama is exciting. The makeups are intense. You feel alive. But it's an unsustainable fire. Eventually, everyone gets tired of living on a battlefield. The people who love you will leave, not because they didn't care, but because they couldn't survive the constant heat, the endless cycle of eruption and apology. Your passion is a gift, a magnificent, world-altering force. But without containment, it destroys everything in its path, including the very love you're so desperate to feel. Your work is to learn that stability is not the death of passion, it's the foundation for it. True intimacy isn't found at the explosion. It's found in the quiet moments of trust, in the steady warmth of a fire that's built to last. For the next 72 hours, your mission is to practice stillness. When you feel an emotional eruption coming, the urge to send that angry text, to make that dramatic declaration, to pick that fight, pause. Set a timer for 24 hours before you act on it. Write down everything you're feeling, every accusation, every fear. Let the lava cool on the page. Then, a day later, read what you wrote and ask yourself, is this about them, or is this about my fear that calm means the end? You will be shocked at how often the urgency was a false alarm. Your anchor phrase is this: my fire is not proof of love, my presence is. Repeat it when the silence feels too loud, when peace feels like boredom. You don't have to burn down the village to feel its warmth. But what if your fire isn't burning hot, but frozen solid? What if your problem isn't too much emotion, but none at all? The ice lock is for those protecting something fragile, something broken long ago. You've been hurt deeply, and instead of feeling the full, shattering weight of that pain, you froze it. You locked it away in a vault of ice where it couldn't burn you, couldn't break you, couldn't demand your attention. On the surface, you are the epitome of control. You seem calm, logical, unshakable. People might describe you as hard to get close to, emotionally distant, even cold, and they're not entirely wrong. But what they don't see, what you might not even see anymore, is that underneath the ice, there's a wound that never healed. This is the archetype of the wounded child, the part of you that decided, at a very young age, that survival meant shutting down, numbing out, building walls so thick and so high that nothing and no one could ever reach you again. You're not cold because you don't care. You are cold because you care too much, and your direct experience has taught you that caring always, inevitably, leads to catastrophic loss. This emotional glaciation is not a personality flaw. It is a profound survival mechanism. The statistics are staggering. The ice lock correlates with a specific childhood event, often severe abandonment or sustained emotional neglect, in 89% of cases. You learned that depending on others is a liability. Showing need leads to rejection. The safest place is inside your own fortress of solitude. So you became radically self-sufficient. You convinced yourself and everyone around you that you don't need anyone, that relationships are optional, that you are perfectly fine alone. But here is the brutal truth. You are not fine. You are frozen. And the longer you stay frozen, the harder it becomes to remember what warmth even feels like. Ice doesn't just preserve, it paralyzes. Nothing new can grow on frozen ground. You're not building a life. You are maintaining a holding pattern, watching other people experience joy, connection, and grief from behind a thick wall of glass. You call it peace, but it is paralysis. The ice lock doesn't just protect you from others. It protects you from yourself. It keeps you from having to grieve what you lost, from facing the terror of the abandonment that taught you love was a dangerous game you could never win. But you cannot heal what you refuse to feel. Your task is the bravest of all. You must learn to feel again. Not all at once, not recklessly, slowly, gently, with immense self-compassion. For the next 72 hours, your practice is to find one small, frozen memory. Don't pick the central trauma. That's for later, with support. Pick something on the periphery, a disappointment, a small betrayal, a moment you felt alone. Close your eyes. Imagine placing that memory on a warm surface. Don't analyze it. Don't judge it. Just let it sit there in the warmth and notice, with the curiosity of a scientist, if any sensation begins to emerge. A tightness in your chest, a heat in your throat, a flicker of sadness. Whatever it is, just let it be there for 30 seconds without fixing it or pushing it away. That is the beginning of the thaw. Your anchor phrase is, I survived by freezing. I will heal by thawing. Say it when you feel the instinct to shut down, to intellectualize, to dismiss. You do not have to melt the entire glacier today. Just one drop is a revolution. Now stay with me for just 60 more seconds. What I'm about to ask you to do will feel impossible, but it is the single most important step you can take, and it will change everything. Now, we arrive at the most important part of this entire journey. We need to talk about what happens when you ignore what your lock is trying to tell you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people spend their entire lives choosing the same lock over and over, dating the same person in a different body, repeating the exact same self-sabotaging patterns, and then wondering why nothing ever changes. The person drawn to the black lock keeps choosing emotionally unavailable partners because that distance feels familiar. It feels safe. It feels predictable. At least when someone can't get close, you know what to expect. At least when love stays on the other side of a wall, you're not blindsided by sudden loss. But here is the critical distinction you must make. Familiar is not the same as healthy, and safe is not the same as happy. You might look at your relationship history and see a string of people who weren't ready or couldn't commit, or had too many issues of their own. But the real, terrifying question you have to ask yourself is, why do you keep picking them? What is it about emotional distance that feels like home to you? Until you can sit with that question, you'll keep hanging the same black lock on 100 different bridges, hoping for a different result, and never getting one. The person drawn to the crystal lock keeps choosing people who lie, who hide things, who turn out to be completely different than they claimed. And every single time it happens, you feel devastated, betrayed, and foolish, like you should have seen it coming. So you double down on your own transparency, thinking that if you're just more honest, more open, more radically vulnerable, eventually you will find someone who matches that pure energy. But here's what you are fundamentally misunderstanding. You are not attracting liars because you are too honest. You are attracting liars because you have no boundaries. Predatory and dishonest people specifically seek out radically transparent people because they are easy to read, easy to manipulate, and easy to predict. They see your beautiful, trusting openness not as a virtue, but as a vulnerability to be exploited. Until you learn that not everyone has earned the right to your inner world, you will keep choosing people who take your honesty and use it as a weapon against you. The crystal lock needs to stop believing that transparency alone is a shield. Transparency without discernment is not vulnerability. It is exposure. The person drawn to the lava lock keeps choosing relationships that feel like a cinematic roller coaster. Intoxicating and intense at the beginning, chaotic and exhausting in the middle, and explosive and destructive at the end. You have convinced yourself that the drama is proof that it's real love, that if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't matter. You mistake passion for love, chemistry for compatibility, and intensity for intimacy. And the moment things calm down, the moment the honeymoon phase inevitably ends and a comfortable routine begins to set in, you panic. You start fights just to feel something. You create problems just to have something to solve together. You manufacture crisis because crisis to you feels like connection. And maybe your partner plays along for a while. But eventually, everyone gets tired of the fire. They will leave. Not because they didn't care, but because your brand of love felt like a war zone, and they were looking for a home. Until you can learn to tolerate the profound and healing power of calm, you will keep burning through relationships and calling the ashes love. The person drawn to the ice lock keeps choosing relationships that ask almost nothing of them emotionally. You pick people who are content with distance, who don't push for deeper connection, who accept your coldness as a personality trait rather than what it truly is, a trauma response. You tell yourself you're independent, self-sufficient, that you don't need the things other people seem to need from relationships. And maybe that's partly true, but it's also convenient. It's also safe. And it is profoundly, achingly lonely. You watch others build lives together, share homes, grow old side by side, and you tell yourself that's not for you, that you're different, that you are perfectly fine alone. But are you? Or are you just frozen? Because here is the brutal reality of ice. It preserves, but it does not allow for growth. Nothing new can happen in the freeze. You're not building a life. You are maintaining a holding pattern. And one day, you risk looking around and realizing that everyone else's life moved forward while you were perfectly preserved in a moment that has long since passed. Until you allow yourself to thaw, you will keep choosing partners who are comfortable with your ice, because it means they never have to face the fire of real intimacy either. You will call it peace, when in fact, it is paralysis. Breaking the pattern is the hardest work you will ever do, and it starts with brutal self-awareness. It looks like recognizing your lock and consciously choosing to do the opposite of what it demands. If you're the black lock, it means intentionally choosing someone who wants to be close, and then staying, even when your every instinct screams at you to run. If you're the crystal lock, it means pausing before you overshare and asking, has this person earned my vulnerability? If you're the lava lock, it means sitting in the discomfort of a peaceful evening and not sabotaging it because it feels boring. And if you're the ice lock, it means forcing yourself to stay present when someone shows you warmth instead of immediately shutting down. This is the final piece, the one that makes everything else make sense. Your lock is not your enemy. It is not a flaw or a failure. It is a survival strategy that worked when you needed it most. But survival and thriving are not the same thing. The strategies that keep you alive in crisis will keep you stuck in peace. You are not trying to become someone else. You are trying to become the version of yourself that can be both safe and seen, both passionate and peaceful, both vulnerable and boundaried. That version already exists inside you. The lock is just in the way. So here is your final assignment. Over the next 7 days, notice your lock in action. Observe it without judgment. And then, just once, do the opposite of what it tells you to do. Share the small thing. Hold back the overshare. Sit in the calm. Stay in the warmth. Just once, as an experiment, and see that you survive. That small act of defiance against your own programming is the beginning of everything. It is the key turning in the lock. It is the door cracking open. It is how you stop repeating and start evolving. The lock you chose on that bridge was your past, your pattern, your wound, and your teacher. Now you know what it's trying to teach you. The only question left is whether you are finally ready to learn a new lesson. Thank you for staying with me. If this helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your lock choice and one word for how you feel in the comments. And remember, the lock is not a prison, it's a door, and you have always been holding the key.